Hey everybody, and thank you for joining us for another Bad Batch reaction here on the Canon Collector channel. This is episode number 7, I believe. We are making our way through. We are almost about halfway. I believe the series is 16 episodes long, and we are coming up on the midpoint here. So I'm hoping for a lot of things. I'm expecting some big things coming up here right in the middle of this series, and then hopefully riding that out until the end. So let's check out our episode today. Episode number 7, entitled Battle Scars. As they traverse a decommissioned medical facility, the Batch encounter an unexpected threat. Okay, yeah, this, I don't know. This doesn't sit well with me, to be completely honest with you. And I'm not even in a grumpy mood today. But to be honest with you, starting to think about this week's episode, really, it isn't frustrating me. I'm really excited to watch it. Like, I haven't 180 turned on how I've felt about this show. Everything that I've said up until this point is true, and I would just continue to repeat myself like I've been doing for the past 5 or 6 weeks here. But this, I was really hoping to just see Crosshair, like, in that thumbnail, have mentioned something about Crosshair. I'm just getting to this point where this is a little worrisome, and this description to me doesn't ring out Crosshair, doesn't ring out the Empire, doesn't tell me anything about that. It could very well, because it's an unexpected threat, but maybe they've forgotten because they've moved on to so many other things. I don't know what the play is here, but I would imagine that Crosshair is probably not an unexpected threat. He is probably very much an expected threat at this point in time. So obviously it could be Crosshair. It could very well be Crosshair, but I don't think that he is an unexpected threat at this point in the show. It doesn't make sense to me. They are very much aware of him, and it feels to a certain degree, not like they've forgotten him, because I feel like he gets mentioned every episode, but it almost feels like we've really moved away from that right now. I mean, what has it been? Let's take a peek here. And I feel like we got a lot of it, obviously, in the first episode. About maybe the third episode, I think, was a big one, and then once we met Fennec, it's been this kind of week-to-week other story thing, and I've enjoyed it. I've liked it. I think it's really smart, but we're moving in a weird direction right now. I want to go back to Crosshair and see what's going on there. I just want to touch on that story again, because that felt very much like what this whole thing was. Now, I totally get that maybe we want to move more in the Fennec direction, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going on with the whole Trace and Rafa stuff that we got last week, but this feels to me like this is going to be something new too, and I don't want another puzzle piece. And this was something that I thought about going into this week's episode, was that I just really don't want another puzzle piece in the show. Not right now. Obviously, this could be a misdirect for me, and I could be getting maybe a little too upset over things that don't quite matter and won't matter once we dive into this 27-minute episode. But it's just like, if you give us another puzzle piece, I just don't want that. These are those paths I was talking about last time, where we had one path that we could go down as far as what the story could be and how it relates to other villains and other elements in the overall Bad Batch story, where it's like, okay, in the episode, you could go down the Crosshair Empire route, you could go down the Fennec Shand route, or you could go down a third route, which I theorized last time before the episode, and then the episode hit, and it was true. Not that it was a villain or anything, but it was another path. You know, we did introduce this sort of like rebel-like figure at the end with Trace and Rafa, and so you felt that there's the good side, there's the clearly bad side, and then maybe there's the neutral side with Fennec. And I think that's all we can really get. And like I said last time, it's a triangle. And yeah, there's only 3 points in a triangle, and I don't want another one. So what does this mean? All I could see is maybe, no, it's an unexpected threat, so it's not going to be a good guy. It's not going to be something like that. It's going to be somebody completely different, and I don't want a one-off, you know? I want these things to really matter moving forward, and I think so far we've done that, and I think that these things will matter moving forward. But I don't want a weird one-off villain for this. I want to dive back into what we were doing with this whole show. Do not get me wrong, and do not take this as like complete and utter frustration, because it's not. Like, I very much enjoyed this show. Every week it's providing me with something that I'm like completely and utterly enjoying, but at the same time you're setting up a lot of things, and I get that we have 16 episodes, but like I want to chew on something, you know? This is like you went to a party and you met a bunch of people and you never really talked to them in any sort of meaningful way. And for me, I am not the kind of guy who just wants to surface level meet people. I want to talk to you. I want to get to know who you are. Let me know who these villains are, man. We barely spent any time with Crosshair in this show. Get me back there. I want more. I want more of the Empire, or I want more of Fennec, or I want to know more about who this rebel-like figure is that's working with Trace and Rafa, or that Trace and Rafa are working for. Give me some stuff. Give me some answers. I don't want to just keep setting up questions. If this whole season is just questions, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to lose it. Or if it's just a bunch of one-offs, it's just not meaningful and it's not fun. And that's what happens when you set up too many things in a row, is that they start to feel not meaningful. You know, I kind of think that that's what the errors were in season 1 of The Mandalorian. Just this constant bash you over the head with like 4 or 5 episodes of just like setting up stuff. And like, sure, it pays off in season 2. Yeah, like, you know, it doesn't pay off right away, but it definitely, a lot of those things end up paying off in season 2 with characters like Bill Burr and, you know, Bill Burr's character and things like that. But it's just like, oh my gosh, like, this is too much. This is a lot of stuff to be setting up, and it just doesn't make me feel like we're actually making any progress. Like, the Bad Batch themselves are, and maybe that's what they're going for, is we want to really root this in the group of the Bad Batch and have them go through all this stuff while we set everything else up so that we can build them and we can grow them and get them to where they want to be. I mean, that is that's what I'm hoping they're doing, if that is what they're doing. But at the same time, I need some answers. I need something to propel me forward. Or, I mean, it's just at a point where it's just too many characters. And I am never one of those people who watches a movie like Star Wars or The Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter and says that, like, oh man, there's too many characters, they're setting up too many things. I'm not that kind of guy. But right now, yeah, like, let's do this a little organically. Like, let's answer some of these questions and then move on to other things, like one at a time. And if we want to set up Fennec and have the Empire and then like really dive into him for a little bit and then put him on a shelf for a little while and then move on to some other stuff and then eventually come back to it, that's fine. Let's play with the toys that we have. This is like an embarrassment of riches to a certain degree, and I just want to play with the stuff I got for Christmas. You got all these nice toys, let's play with them, man. Like, I don't want to just keep buying toys. I want to play with them. I want to do something with this. Like, one episode is not enough. We played with it for one day, we threw it in a bin, and now we went out and we bought more toys, and that's just what it feels like. Sure, maybe at the end we're gonna have a massive mashup battle, but like, gosh, I just want to play with the toys that I have. That's my only complaint. That's literally all I have. That's the only complaint that I have in the show right now. And like I've said before, don't take this as me being negative towards the show, or don't take this as me being completely and utterly frustrated, because I'm not. I am still in the mindset of the show set up things really well, and they can really do whatever they want for the majority of this show. I just think we're starting to get to a point now where that is kind of worn off. For me, at least. The goodwill that they won up top with the first 3-4 episodes, you know, really is starting to wane a bit. I just want more answers. You can still do this whole rhythm and routine where you give us a little something at the beginning, we go on this kind of almost unrelated journey, and then you give us a little fun something at the end. That's totally fine. But make those things surrounding that episode about one of these other characters. You know, make it about Fennec, make it about this other rebel, or make it about Crosshair and the Empire. You know, those are the things I want to see. Give me more of that, please. Build up those characters. It's going to help you in merch, too. Let's make these characters really, really important. You're going to be able to sell action figures that I'll actually play with and not throw in a bin, like I just said. Anyway, I don't want to be any more negative. I don't want to... Not that I was even being too negative. I like to hope that Am I being negative? Am I being negative? I'm being negative. Let's not be negative. Let's be positive. Let's go into this hoping for the best. Let's dive in to Episode 7, Battle Scars. Okie dokie. Hyperspace or no hyperspace? Seems like every other episode we're in hyperspace. The Bad Batch. We're just in space. Ooh, and we're doing a little fighting here. What's happening? Ruby? What What is happening? Okay, we are really just diving into this, aren't we? Okay. So I feel like we've jumped a little bit here, and that's cool. I kind of like that. Who are they? The kid. What are they going to do? Okay, who are you? Is this Rex? That's a clone, dude. That looks like a clone to me. Mm. Ooh, boy. I hope this is Rex. I don't know. Oh, yeah, that's Rex. Oh, yeah. You see that armor? I saw that blue. Yeah, boy. Woohoo. Okay. I take it back. I take everything back. This show is fantastic. I love it. I'm sorry I was so grumpy a couple minutes ago. Tell him what happened. Tell him. Go through the whole thing. I'll sit here. I'll listen to him just recount the whole Siege of Mandalore. Oh, wow. Check out that video where we spent forever in the Venator. Yeah. It's a Dianoga in there? What you got going on in there, huh? Getting some Fallen Order vibes, huh? Huh? Yo, what if Cal was here? That'd be crazy. He's not gonna like this. Wrecker, did he get through? Oh, yeah. He's not gonna like this. Yo, it's probably gonna snap. I'm feeling the tension right now. Is he gonna land in some water down below? And yup. He's a big boy. That's a heavy boy. Knew it. Yeah, that literally did happen in Fallen Order. Like, many times. This is very Fallen Order. That thing's gonna... Ooh, boy, Ooh, boy. Why? Oh, boy. Oh, man, Wrecker, come on. Oh, wow. Yeah, get him out of here, guys. Help this poor man. Oh, look at that. Ooh, this man is traumatized. There is no way he's... I would hate heights so much after this whole experience. Even more so than before. Oh, man. I don't like this. Ooh, is she gonna use the Force, dude, to help? Like, yo. She knows things. I don't like this sound, man. They're activating this chip. And is the unexpected enemy Wrecker? Yo. I'll be fine with that. Oh, it's going off. It's done. He is the enemy. Oh, that was so cool, but oh my god, I am heartbroken. Oh, man. Oh, this is not good. If anything happens to that sweet, sweet man, oh, I will be heartbroken. Ooh, yup. Oh, man, Omega, you have done it now. That must be terrifying. Oh, man. The Bad Batches, they got you. They're coming. Rex is coming. Ooh, man. Ooh, man. Yup, thank you, Rex. Okay. You gonna be a good boy now, Wrecker? Yo, who is it? Who is it? Is it Trace and Rafa, or is it Ahsoka? Yeah, boy. What does that mean? There's something else there too, man. Like, Okay. All right. Okay. 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 I was a grumpy boy before, but you guys knew how to make me not so grumpy. I'd like to officially take this time to apologize to everybody watching this and how grumpy I seemed earlier. And I still hold true to a lot of what I said. I'm not taking it back necessarily, but yes, this was the right thing to do. I appreciate that. And it is in line with what I said at the beginning of this reaction. I wanted to touch base on one of those 3 points in that triangle. Either Crosshair in the Empire, Fennec, or whatever was going on with Trace and Rafa and the whole rebellion thing. And we did that with doing this episode, with meeting Rex and having that finally be a thing and making that connection. You know, we've now been able to check that off of the list of stuff from the trailer and the other trailers. This was a perfect episode to really tie in a lot of those things that have been going on. We met Rex, so we have one point in that triangle, the good point in that triangle we touched on. We made a lot of connections here. We know that there's probably going to be future things involved with this. We've gotten a lot of teases at Ahsoka and some fun other stuff and a lot of other fun little cameos, or not cameos, but a lot of other fun little Easter eggs and stuff in this episode. But then we also touched on some other elements like Wrecker in his head and what was going on with the chip. Now we don't have to worry, and I actually really like this because we've been teasing it for a while, and I thought it was going to be a big moment. I thought we might have an episode or two with Wrecker kind of being just the Hulk. I like this a lot better. I think that this makes sense. We teased it. Now we're done. Now we're done with that little story point. It was a good way to get to Rex and have a lot of those connections being made, and now I feel like we can move forward and probably see Rex again in the finale or in some other future episodes or something. Man, wouldn't it be cool though if all these rumors of Rex being in the Ahsoka show and, you know, future seasons of The Mandalorian and all this other stuff, like, wouldn't it be crazy if we don't see Rex ever again in the Bad Batch? Or maybe we do, like, way down the line if this show goes on for a lot more seasons. But, like, wouldn't it be cool if, like, they never pick that thing up again and then, like, we see the freaking Bad Batch in live action in the Ahsoka show, or the big team up that, you know, is supposed to happen with all the Disney Plus series? Like, wouldn't that just be crazy? And I don't know if it would really work, but I mean, if Rex is still alive, the Bad Batch is probably, you know, still kicking, still being old enough to be around. That would make sense. And because that they are, you know, modified and different versions of the clones, that it would totally make sense for them to not age as rapidly. That also brings up a really good point with Omega kind of clarifying that Rex is a Gen 1. You know, did she say Gen 1? Whatever the first version of the clones are. I wonder what the actual age difference is between, like, the Bad Batch and Rex and some of the other clones that we know. That is super interesting. Wow. And I think there is just so many cool things about Omega, and having like all of this inside knowledge of the clones, like that is so important for this whole story. I think moving forward, that is just going to be huge. And just for lore, for canon, that is big. I don't feel like I've heard that up to this point. We have gotten in our timeline binge and all the plot summaries that we've been doing, we have gotten right up to the first story arc of the Clone Wars TV show. We're working now on the Clone Wars movie, and then back into more arcs of the Clone Wars. But I don't believe that, and I mean, I've watched the Clone Wars before. I've watched a lot of the stuff. I haven't dived into every single piece of canon just yet within this Clone Wars era, but there's not a whole lot of stuff. So I don't feel like we've talked much about generations of clones. I think that it's something fairly obvious, and it's something that they do touch on to a certain degree in the Clone Wars, but from my knowledge, from my memory, I don't feel like we've talked about it, or at least talked about it too much. If I'm wrong, though, as always, make sure to go in the comments and let me know where that is, because I want to make sure that I'm watching that episode right now, regardless of my timeline binge. This is very important information moving forward. And I haven't dived too deep into Legends, at all. Some of the big heavy hitters, but not much of the Clone Wars era stuff in that regard. So maybe that was something that was discussed a lot in maybe Legends books or something else. But this is just, I feel like this is opening up, at least for somebody, and at least for the majority of Star Wars fans who are probably live action fans and animation fans, maybe haven't dived too deep into books or comics. This is some pretty big stuff. This is some juicy stuff. Omega's got so much information and so much knowledge in there. She is going to be such an incredible asset throughout this show to give us all of these little canon and story nuggets, man. Ooh, man, the lore potential with her, with the Bad Batch is crazy. That is so awesome. And it fulfills a need for me with jumping back to Kamino and talking to the Kaminoans, and it's like if she gives us a lot of the information that they have, then I'm fine with not jumping back there as much and dealing with them directly. But that is still something that's on my list, and I think that we are set up to maybe not necessarily go back to Kamino, but we are going to be getting Empire next week. Like there's no doubt in my mind. You don't end it that way, saying inform the Empire without without kind of touching on Crosshair again. And it makes sense because it's episode 8, middle of the season. Let's have another big Crosshair Empire kind of an episode. And then you got me for another couple episodes here, Maybe that's your play, man. Maybe you do one episode, or you do a small arc right in the middle where we deal with the Empire again, and we touch on Crosshair and his, Bad Batch group. Maybe he is, like I was saying last time, maybe he has trained them up pretty well, and they are becoming like a evil version of the Bad Batch. That would be awesome. I would be so fine with not seeing the progression if they just come in and are tuned and just ready to go. That would be incredible. Give me that halfway through this show, and then I think you bought me for another few episodes. Looking at it, right, how many episodes did they buy? I feel like with the first big episode, which was about 70 minutes, that really gained a lot of goodwill. The second episode was a little different, but it still had all that 70-minute goodwill. We kind of went back to the replacements where we delved more into the Empire and more stuff like that. So that was still, episodes 1, 2, and 3 were very solid and good. Episode 2, a little, I wouldn't say even a lull. I think it provided a lot more information and a lot of things that are good for the show moving forward, but was a little more like these later episodes that we've just been experiencing. 4, 5, and 6 were definitely these little side mission-y things that were to set up some other stuff, and then we got some clarification on the setup and some advancement on the bigger overall picture, I feel, while still having a smaller sort of story feel to it. So it's just I think that this is genius. They absolutely know how to do it. And maybe I was maybe I was just a little too grumpy this morning. Maybe that was more me than anything else. But I have been feeling that all week, that this was really they would have 1 or 2 more episodes of this before I was going to kind of lose it a little bit, before I was going to kind of just, or potentially get bored or something else. And I just think that it has me It has me on the hook. It has me coming back, and I'm really liking that in the show. The only thing that I'm worried about is more casual fans, people who aren't necessarily probably like us, who are going to watch every reaction video available to you on YouTube to, to experience this episode over and over and over again, to grab every little nook and cranny and every little comment that everybody's making on this. My fear is the casual fan that maybe feels like that was a little too much. Maybe there isn't enough momentum or enough cool things for them moving forward. I feel like stormtroopery, empire-y things are good for the casual fan, but this is largely, bringing people over from the Clone Wars. So I guess we have to look at it less from a live action sort of original trilogy fan and more of a prequel trilogy and Clone Wars fan. This is really what this show is more than anything. And I think that they're trying to grab a little bit more of the people who lean more towards the original trilogy to probably experience this, just because it's providing some little things like the Moochie thing, and I think we're going to get more into that as we go on. So I could see a lot of Clone Wars fans obviously being, Clone Wars and people like us who are super into Star Wars and the canon and the lore of it all. But I think as we move through the show, probably if this does go multiple seasons, probably after season 2, maybe season 3 is when we start getting maybe more into the, original trilogy era of things, the stormtroopery, empire-y era, and that'll probably pull in a lot more people at that point, and hopefully they go back and rewatch this whole show when they're able to just kind of binge right on through it. So it's kind of a smart tactic, and I don't know if they've actually thought a lot of that through, or if this is just me, theorizing, or if they're just taking it one episode at a time, because honestly, with a lot of shows like this, if they're not greenlit for second seasons, if, like right off the bat, I don't know how much you're thinking about the full, complete story. But again, like we've talked about before, the great part about Star Wars is that once things are set, once the Bad Batch comes into canon at all, the Bad Batch is canon. And that is something that lives and breathes within Star Wars. Like, that is not something that gets retconned, really. Those characters are there, and they can do whatever they want. And even if the show doesn't continue, then there's always a possibility for it to come back. Clone Wars proved that to us. And, books, comics, video games, other parts of canon, that Dave Filoni would be mining projects that he has been somewhat involved in to bring into live action or bring into other places. Or if he is, the big chief of story that he's, reported to be right now, then I guarantee he would be shuffling these characters around and just trying to find mediums that work for them if it didn't necessarily work in the show. This show is great. I think like anybody maybe who's a little meh about the last episode, I think you get them again right in this one. Like, hearing about Rex being in this, and then the inhibitor chips kind of going out of the Bad Batch. If you just catch a whiff of that, somebody tells you, oh yeah, some big stuff happened, yeah, I would tune back in for sure. But I could see more casual fans tuning back in for that, or waiting a little bit and binge watching some things as some stuff happens, because I feel like next week's going to be a big episode. Middle of this show, we got the Empire coming back, we're going to get Crosshair back, and I am very excited to see what they do with this, see how this goes. I'm almost hoping that we're still on this junk planet, and like the Empire comes and it's like we're not somewhere else. I kind of like the continuation from episode to episode. I do like that in this one we jumped into the middle of it, but it really did make me like hesitate just very slightly, like I missed something, or like I accidentally like jumped way far into the episode. Like, it is just a little weird. Like, it just makes me feel like I didn't get the full picture, and that's fine, because like that is a perfect setup for a comic book. If you want to do a tie-in comic book for this, tell me like what just happened right before there, like what happened when they screwed up the tactical droid thing, went back to Sid, talked to her, and then like she sent her on a new mission. That would be great. Like, that's a perfect little comic run. So I am glad that they're building in, like, there are things that are happening in between these episodes, at least a little bit. So that's cool, but it does make me feel like, ooh, that's a little jarring to just kind of be thrown into the middle of something, but that's okay. But I would like this next episode, because it would be cool to see just a very linear continuation of the story that we just got in this episode 7. That's really all I can hope to see, and I'm willing to bet that we are going to get Crosshair in this next one. And I think it's going to be a big Crosshair related episode. Crosshair and the Empire are going to be the big overarching bads. And I could see after that, a separation, an escape, something happens. Maybe they make a play in an attempt to pull him back, but it just doesn't work. And then maybe we have a couple, episodes again before we hit the finale where we probably go back to the Empire and Crosshair and some big stuff happens. But I could see us maybe going back to Fennec at that point and dealing a little more with Fennec Shand and what's going on with her and Omega and all of that. Maybe we get some answers from the Kaminoans at some point in time. Maybe we just see Fennec talk to the Kaminoans if that's who she's working for. I don't know. This is interesting. There's a lot of ways that this thing could go. Again, and every week we get a little more, and then we get a lot more. We get a little answer, and then we get a lot of questions. So I'm very happy with this. Yeah, they're killing it, man. They are, any issue that I have, they continually address. And I think that happens again and again. I mean, sitting down to rewatch this series is going to be something, because I feel like I'm going to feel those peaks and valleys, and it's going to feel really natural. I think really rewatching this show and doing a full binge of this whole thing is going to feel very, very good. I have a real feeling that they took a lot of that pacing into consideration while also taking in the consideration of watching it week to week. And I think that maybe they wanted me to maybe get I don't really think they wanted me to get frustrated last week or like into this week. But this was like, once I read that description, that's when I started to be like, really? Are we doing something different? And I don't necessarily know if they take into account, like when you're creating the show and making the show, I don't think you're thinking, well, he's going to read the description. That guy on YouTube, he's going to read the description and then he's going to make a judgment statement instead of just clicking the thing because he's trying to fill some time at the beginning of his reaction video. Yeah, I don't think they're taking that into consideration. Wrapping things up, I'm very happy with this episode. I'm very happy with this show. Every time I have an issue, they address it. Every time I want something, they either give it to me or they give me something better. And I think we're in a good place for next week. So I'm very excited to see what they do, hopefully with the Empire next week. If it's not the Empire, they have bought me a little bit of time because they have touched on Rex and they are wrapping up with, they wrapped up the Wrecker and inhibitor chip arc at the beginning of the show. So do what you want next week, but I think it would be smart, and given the way that we ended, it would be really smart to do something with the Empire. Very much looking forward to next week when we are going to be doing another reaction. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get to see that. As well, if you like these reactions and you do want to see more, not only subscribe, but we would really appreciate a like on this video as well as a comment below. So let me know. We were talking about Gen 1 of the clones. Where does that come from? Is that in canon? Should I be looking somewhere? Did I just like completely forget something from the Clone Wars? I'd love to be able to go back and look at that again before I hit it in the timeline binge, because I want that information for the show. Or was it something that was just in Legends? Was it there? Like, what am I missing? Or is this something completely brand new? Did you know about it beforehand? Let me know in the comments, because I want to have a discussion on what Gen 1 in these different generations of clones could mean, not just for this show, not just for the ramifications of the Clone Wars, but for what we could see in other parts of canon, like The Mandalorian, like the Ahsoka Tano show, and maybe some other stuff that they have in the works that like we're just not totally thinking about. So make sure to comment below with that. As well, you guys can also follow us on TikTok and on Instagram at The Canon Collector. We do a bunch of fun stuff there, and we are very happy to have you on all of the platforms that we take a part in. Can't wait to talk to you guys next week. Hope you enjoyed this episode as well. Go watch it a bunch more times, because I am going to do that right now. As always, everybody, may the spires keep you, and may the Force be with you. See you next week.